Knowledge doesn't always translate into behavior because most of us already know what to do, yet still have a hard time implementing those things in our lives. I feel like sometimes we are trying to find online the perfect training split, the perfect diet, the perfect supplement stack, or even the perfect peptide. If that was the case, if information was the issue, then by now we should all be doing the things that we know we're supposed to be doing, such as sleeping more, doing weight training consistently, hydrating ourselves, staying active, meditating, doing all the things, right?
Welcome to Wonderland, a place to deconstruct ideas to understand your body through nutrition, hormones, and psychology. And in doing so, to inhabit your body with dignity, respect, and pride. Hello, my name is Fran, coach with Team Pro Physique, professional bodybuilder, psychologist, nutrition consultant, wife, and mom. So grab your favorite drink, take a deep breath, because I promise you information that can transform how you listen to your body, support what your body truly needs, and help you fall in love with yourself all over again.
So I think that the biggest misconception in the fitness industry is that knowledge should translate automatically into results. We know that's not the case. And to be fair, I understand why, because there was a part in my life where I thought the same thing. I was constantly searching online. I know that thinking that out there is a perfect plan, the secret plan or the magic plan, sounds very appealing. See, but the longer I coach and the more I study about psychology, physiology, I understand that behavior is way more complicated than just knowing what to do. But the one thing we need to understand is that behavior happens in a context. See, behavior doesn't happen in isolation. It happens along with your physiology. And this is something that I keep repeating myself, but I keep doing that because I feel like it's very important to not forget. Because a chronically stressed body, a chronically stressed brain doesn't process the reward, the effort, the emotion, and decision making the same way a regulated nervous system does. And obviously, a person that is sleep deprived is not going to experience motivation. And if we don't consider these aspects, we can become very cruel with ourselves, thinking that we're not probably disciplined enough, then we just need to keep trying harder. Because probably we are assuming that the lack of consistency is just a personal trait, right? Maybe weakness, right? If we look at the psychological aspect and even the physiological aspect, sometimes that avoidance is actually protection. Not necessarily that is dysfunctional. Your body will always prioritize keeping you alive. And understanding that is really, really important because even emotional eating, for example, can be a way of your body regulating if it's been deprived for a long time. And yes, maybe that avoidance is protection, but that doesn't mean that those behaviors are healthy. It just means that having a human experience is way more complex than just wanting our goal really bad. And personally, I think we are just exhausted of being talked to like if we are machines. Eat less, move more, be more disciplined, or just don't want it bad enough. See, but human behavior has never been that simple. I will say, especially now when we are trying to manage our careers, raise our children, sometimes even grieving, financial stress, relationships, hormone transitions, overstimulation, emotional fatigue, and a nervous system that barely has a chance to recover. Lately, I've been having to review some books about sports psychology, and when I look at the neuroscience, it becomes very clear that physiology affects our behavior way more than we realize. In the book Sparks, John Ratey talks about how exercise influences neurotransmitters involved in attention, mood, motivation, and learning. He explains how movements affect dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and the whole neuroplasticity. And one of the things that I find very fascinating is that, we know that movement or exercise changes our body, but it also changes how we make our decisions. And honestly, I do believe that this is the missing part of the fitness industry because we keep giving plans to our clients without really understanding the state that the person is in because we keep assuming that adherence is mostly intellectual, but it's not. Yes, of course, there is a psychological component, but also a physiological component, an emotional, and also a social component. And all of those things interact together. And if we don't look at all these systems interacting is when we keep getting stuck. Because to be honest, a lot of the things that we set up for ourselves or even coaches that set up plans for us are not fully realistic to the life that we're living in. And to be fair, I think that health conversation can be actually very dangerous when we only focus on the outcome, ignoring completely the psychological cost of this goal. Because working with a lot of women, I have noticed that some of them can perform or adhere to a plan, but the motivation is coming from very different places. Some of them can be obsession, shame, rigidity, even fear. I mean, I can understand that because I have lived it myself. We as women are often judged for how we look, how well put together we are. On the outside, a behavior can look like a person is very disciplined, but not necessarily. That can be also from punishment, like I said, from fear. And that is when it becomes truly important to know the person that you're working with. And I really do believe that this is where sports psychologist becomes very important. Not because it gives you a magical motivation hack, but because it studies the relationship between the stress, the behavior, performance, perception, recovery, confidence, emotional regulation, and most importantly, adaptation. Sports psychology looks at the human more holistically, which honestly, it feels very refreshing in a culture obsessed with reducing calories and having a toxic relationship with cardio. And I honestly believe that this is the missing link between, coaches, clients, the fitness industry, because we need to stop thinking that, just wanting it more or just trying harder or just eliminating all carbs, doing all this cardio. No, no, we need to look at realistically how our lives look like, how our physiology is, not hate ourselves into more discipline, but learning how to build a plan, a process that the body and your nervous system can keep repeating without making our nervous system perceive that this is a threat and that we should stop, because that's all it is. And actually, I made another video talking about how the nervous system perceives threat when we start something new and it makes us stop. And we keep blaming ourselves for stopping that behavior, thinking that we were not strong enough, when in reality, we were actually never had the choice to make. It was our nervous system making that decision. I invite you to go watch the video. I will put the link somewhere here. So no, it's not the lack of knowledge. It's not the lack of motivation, discipline, none of those things, but building that plan, that process that your body and your nervous system can, like I said, repeat without constantly feeling that you need to hate yourself into discipline. Because eventually the body pushes back. And it's very simple why. Because your biology is trying to keep you alive and safe. It's trying to find a balance. And I really do believe that this is where guidance really shines. Not because you need a motivational speaker yelling at you, but instead, a person that is actually capable of identifying patterns, understand your behavior, regulate your expectations, and most importantly, adjusting the plan without making you feel that you fail. Because that would be very lazy coaching. Just making you think that you're not trying hard enough, you're not doing things right. I wouldn't want someone to just give me the perfect plan that looks good on a paper without taking into consideration my real life circumstances. I want someone to help me reach my goals while at the same time supports my well-being instead of someone just destroying them psychologically. I think that sometimes we don't understand that when we approach a new behavior, a new exercise thing, we already come with a predisposition to movement, how we perceive ourselves, how we have this sense of probably not belonging into this new space, how we have managed stress before, how we have managed failure before. And those are very important things when it comes down to coaching a person. A person never comes just with a body, it becomes with a history. And if we don't understand this person for who he or she really is, then whatever we say, it may be irrelevant because it will feel like we're talking to a different person. It won't feel personalized. So again, I strongly believe that that is the missing link. That is the value of coaching. It's not about just giving you a plan and expect you to do good with it. So if you are my client, I do encourage you again to communicate with me. We can figure something out. And if you are ready to start working with someone that looks at you as a whole person, the link is in the description below.